Good morning. It is Tony Dattino on our first day of May. And as we've said many, many times, April showers, which we've had this past week here in Orlando, Windermere, bring May flowers. So we'll start waiting for the flowers to pop up. But I have begun doing earlier morning broadcast as my Mondays and Fridays are a little bit more active once I get to 10 o'clock in the morning, and they run me later into the day. So I like to get my Live with Tony broadcast done Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is what I've committed to my followers, and I therefore am learning to get up and get them done in the morning. And the one that I wanted to talk about today is I was with someone yesterday, and they had this book called The Good Life, and it was written by two Harvard researchers that have spent 20 years studying people, and what their goal was is to find out what are some of the elements that lead to people being happy and feeling alive and having longer lives and keeping mental health and having their cognitive fitness beyond what their expectations were. And so it's totally in line with a number of research projects and magazine articles I have read over the years from be it New Scientist or Nature magazine or Science magazine or Scientific American, newsletters that I get from a variety of universities. Harvard is one, MIT is another, Massachusetts General's Mind, Mood, and Memory. And so it kind of pulled it all together. So as I was going through the book, I just thought about the Facebook lives that I've been doing over the last COVID years, 3 years now. It's hard to believe it's now 3 years for COVID, but it's 3 years. And the topic, I would hope that anybody listening to me over these years would realize what I'm about to say right now, which is the importance of social interaction and what the impact of loneliness and isolation is. And so this book just kind of pulled it all together. And as I was reading it, it wasn't until the later chapters that it really got to what I call the thought process of where you get people to actively think about what are some of the things that they should be doing and focusing on that help them navigate through very difficult times of isolation and lockdowns. And you saw it first in kids, and you see it now. I'm reading something about the growth of teenage suicides, the growth of teenage students looking for therapy. Therapists are overwhelmed. You used to be able to get a therapist within a week, and now you may wait a month. Their calendars are just booked. And the isolation that we put kids through and the lockdowns, we're trying to balance the clinical aspects of the virus and the spread of COVID, with the primary focus of keeping them alive. And even at that level, the researchers and the science community couldn't get together. I couldn't agree on, was it better for them to be in school? Was it better for them not to be in school? We certainly didn't want to start to see our kids dying from COVID. And so the fear and the death of that, and of their lives and ending it, I mean, it scared the heck out of people. And you go to the opposite extreme, which was seniors. Now we started to see seniors and seniors dying, and people with morbidities in hospitals that overflowed. And you saw the gowns and stuff. So we put people into boxes, and what we've learned is the older population, in that they had the highest risk of dying, found ways of at least maintaining some level of friendships, which the book talks about having 3 or 4 friendships and maintaining contact with those people was a healthy thing to be doing. And so don't isolate yourself from all of these, everybody in your life. Find 3 or 4 people that you thought are really good friends that would really be people to at least get a cup of coffee with a couple of times a week. Maybe it's a different person 3 times a week. But at least find healthy people that you could go out and sit outside if you could. Now, living in Florida made that a whole lot easier for me than if I were living in New York or Wisconsin or Michigan or someplace up in the north, especially during the winter seasons. So it was a little bit easier to find people sitting outside here in the Windermere, Florida, which is near Orlando area. And so getting out and bike riding, sitting at the swimming pool and just watching people jump in the water, and many times kids, which was fun watching how the kids played. And so reading newspapers, and where I did a lot of my reading. And so getting out, this whole notion of the book talks about the impact of social reduction or social isolation and feeling lonely, and what it had to do with life expectancy. And obviously the book in terms of finding your happiness. What was it that would give you the gems of positive thinking, and the gems of wanting to go on and not being overwhelmed with the stress of the news and the stress of what's happening in the country, or the stress that people are dying, which you got to see on almost a regular basis on TV. And I always think of the news of the Queen's Hospital, where they had the coal trucks with bodies just lined up on streets, and the burials on the island in the middle of Long Island Sound. So you got to see those things just about on a daily basis, and therefore, your tendency was to just go into life flee or fight mode of how to survive. And so you started to stay away from people, going into stores, right, aisles in the grocery stores. And so we went through a whole series of things that now coming back to haunt us. And the thing that I was saying over my Facebooks is, knowing one of the 6 elements of long-term brain health, and being social interaction being one of the keys, we were going to create a lot of mental distress for people. And so this book just came out in January of 2023, so it's a brand new book from my perspective, since it's only May now. And it asked some very important questions, which was, okay, so who would you call if you were in a crisis? So who would be the first person that you may pick up the phone and call? So if you were in some kind of a crisis and woke up in the middle of the night and you were scared, who would be the first person you would call, assuming you were alone? Because the book was really focusing on social isolation and being alone. So who would be the first person? God, I've got a spider web coming from my laptop to my... God, that's a weird one. But in any case, who's the first person you would call? Second, who would be somebody that you confide in, that you share your aches and pains and some of your dilemmas in your health and how you're feeling, and your emotional state of being, that you had enough of trust and you have enough of confidence that you would share with them where your mental state was at a given point in time, which gave you an outlet. It gave you somebody to at least to talk to, somebody that you trusted big time. You had to really trust this person, that they would really be a good listener for you. And boy, especially in my world, God, I hear people talk about things that upset them, and I want to help fix that. I want to help them think in a more positive way. So the next thing they talked about is, okay, you have this crisis, you've got somebody you talk to, you've got some friends that you rely on. And the researchers said you don't need a whole lot of friends. You don't have to be one of these social butterflies like the president of the United States or the governor of a state, where you've got thousands of people that want to be your friends. You just need 3 or 4 good friends that you can do these things with. And it brought you to, and are you optimistic? Are you positive when you're having conversations? Are you just commiserating on a lot of the negative things that are going on in your lives? Or can you find that there are positive things that you can focus on? And so the book was just loaded with all the things that we've been talking about in my Facebook Lives, my YouTubes, on maintaining social interactions. So who would you call when you had a crisis? Who can you lean on when it's time to go to a doctor's for an appointment that's got you a little bit anxious and nervous? Who can you trust to be able to share things with? And are you in a positive mode, which then got to the next point, which is, so at whatever age you're at, how do you look at your life? Do you look at it more towards, hey, this is a wonderful life and I want to live it, and therefore I want to build and move into the future, which then would govern your habits and your activities and what you would do? Or do you begin to think most of your time is spent on what's going to happen when you die. So getting a will and thinking about where you want to be buried, thinking about, well, what else do I need to do with the rest of my life? And at what age do I think I'm planning to live to? And so you have all of these different elements that are coming across in this book that really got me to thinking about the 6 key factors for brain health, which is one of our online courses you can find in the USA Memory Championship. And Michael Dattino has done a fabulous job of really putting a lot of these key elements into it. And I just see it in the work that we're doing currently with Brain Fitness Academy. And you see it in the attendees who are feeling that they've been brought to a place where they can make friends, where they can say things without being judged, where they share their learning experiences and their life conditions with a group of people that are totally, they're friends, and they're not judgmental, and there's not a negativity in the room, and it's, wow, it's just enlightening. And so I now go to that on a Monday and Friday, at least for some part of the, because I want to hear the people in this academy. I want to hear what they've got to say, because every week there's a gem that you take away from it, and it certainly keeps me with purpose and keeps me moving on in a positive way. So these are just some of the things that I thought about as I got up this morning and getting ready, as you see, to get off to the academy this morning, of how I maintain some of my social activity and well-being, and just being in an environment where I feel safe and where people are coming for a bit of energy and a whole lot of friendships and people who are caring for people. And let's see where our May flowers go now that we're into the first day of May. And we'll pick it up again on Friday and see what's going on in the world, and what I can talk about and share with my Live with Tony audience that may make a difference in your life.